Look at ancient human skeletons laid out side by side in a museum. Same species, same basic bones, same ancient brain. But the sizes are completely different. Some stood barely above 5 feet. Others were close to 6. Some ancient populations were lean and tall, built almost like long-distance runners. Others were short, dense, and compact, built more like wrestlers. And they all lived on the same planet under the same sky at the same time. For a long time, scientists assumed height was just random variation, just genetics doing what genetics does, nothing more. But the more researchers studied ancient skeletons from different parts of the world, the stranger the pattern looked. Because height was not random. It followed rules, strict, almost brutal rules. Rules set by where you were born, what was trying to kill you, and what kind of body gave you the best chance of surviving. The tall ones were not just tall, they were optimized for something. The short ones were not just short, they were optimized for something completely different. And the part that should make you uncomfortable is this. Those same forces are still working on human bodies today. You are not outside this story. You are inside it. So why did ancient humans have such different heights? The answer does not begin with food or genetics. It begins with a much older problem. A problem every human body had to solve depending on one single thing: where on Earth it was born.
Before anything else, you need to understand something that took scientists a long time to accept. The human body does not look the way it looks by accident. Every part of you, your nose shape, your skin color, the length of your arms, is a solution to a problem your ancestors faced. Not a perfect solution, not a pretty solution, but a solution that was good enough to keep them alive long enough to have children. Height is the same. In 1847, a German biologist named Carl Bergmann noticed something strange while studying animals across different climates. Animals living in colder regions tended to be larger and heavier than animals of the same species living in warmer regions. Not slightly larger, noticeably larger. The reason is physics. A larger body has more volume relative to its surface area. That means it produces more heat and loses less of it. In a cold environment, that is not just useful, that is survival. A smaller body is the opposite. More surface area relative to volume. Heat escapes faster. In a hot environment, that is exactly what you want. Your body needs to cool itself constantly, and a smaller frame does that better. This rule became known as Bergmann's rule. And when researchers started applying it to ancient humans, something clicked. Because ancient human height did not follow random patterns. It followed climate patterns almost exactly.
In East Africa, near what is now Sudan and South Sudan, a group of people called the Nilotic populations developed some of the tallest average heights ever recorded in any ancient human group. The Dinka people, the Nuer people, bodies that look almost engineered for heat. Extremely tall, extremely lean, long limbs, long necks, narrow frames. A researcher named J.S. Weiner spent years studying body shape across different climates in the mid-20th century and found that these populations were not just tall by chance. Their body shape was almost perfectly designed to release heat. Long limbs increase surface area. A narrow frame means less core mass to overheat. Even their relatively longer noses served a function, warming and cooling the air before it reached the lungs. These were not just tall people. These were bodies that had been shaped by tens of thousands of years of brutal equatorial heat. Every centimeter of height had a cost. More food needed, more water needed, more energy to grow and maintain. Evolution does not pay that cost for no reason. It only pays when the benefit outweighs the expense. In open, dry, intensely hot land, being tall and lean was worth every calorie.
Now go to the opposite extreme. Deep in the Congo rainforest in Central Africa, a group of people called the Aka and Baka, commonly referred to as pygmies, have an average adult height of around 4 feet 11 inches, some even shorter. For decades, scientists assumed this was simply malnutrition, poor diet, not enough food, but that explanation started falling apart when researchers actually studied their diet and health more closely. These communities were not starving, they were not deficient, they were short, because being short in a dense equatorial rainforest is a specific kind of advantage. Moving through thick vegetation is easier with a smaller body. Climbing is easier. Sweating and cooling in humid air, where evaporation is already difficult, is easier. And in an environment where food sources require constant movement and flexibility, a body that needs fewer calories to survive has a serious edge. A 2012 study published in the journal PNAS found that pygmy height was not just about nutrition or a single gene. It was the result of dozens of genetic changes spread across the genome, the kind of pattern that only appears when selection pressure has been working on a population for a very long time. This was not an accident. This was design. Slow, brutal, evolutionary design.
In 2003, researchers digging in a cave on the Indonesian island of Flores found something that stopped them completely. A skeleton. Human, but only about 3.5 feet tall. At first they thought it was a child. Then they looked at the teeth, the bone density, the skull structure. This was a fully grown adult, and it was not Homo sapiens. It was a separate human species that had been living on that island completely cut off from the rest of the world for possibly hundreds of thousands of years. Scientists named it Homo floresiensis. The press immediately called it the Hobbit. And here is what made it disturbing. When large animals get isolated on islands with limited food and limited predators, they sometimes shrink over generations. The same happened here. A human lineage that had once been normal-sized became, over thousands of generations of island isolation, something almost unrecognizable. 3.5 feet tall, a brain roughly the size of a grapefruit, but with evidence of stone tools, evidence of fire, evidence of organized hunting. Whatever it looked like, it was not simple. It was surviving. It was thinking. It was human in the ways that mattered. And it was completely shaped by one thing: the specific pressure of the specific place it was born.
Go north, far north. The Neanderthals were not tall people. Average Neanderthal male stood around 5 feet 5 inches, but they were not built like modern humans either. They were dense, barrel-chested, short-limbed, heavy-boned. This was Bergmann's rule working in the other direction. In Ice Age Europe, a body that lost heat slowly was a body that survived. Short limbs meant less surface area. A thick torso meant more core mass to generate and hold warmth. A researcher named Eric Trinkhaus spent decades analyzing Neanderthal skeletons and found that their limb proportions, specifically the ratio of lower leg to upper leg, matched almost exactly what you would predict for a cold climate mammal following Bergmann and Allen's rules. The cold did not just change what they wore or what they ate, it changed the shape of their bones.
Here is the part that nobody expects. For most of human prehistory, hunter-gatherers were actually reasonably well-nourished. They ate a wide variety of food, diverse plants, animals, nuts, roots. Their skeletons, on average, show relatively good bone density and decent height for their environment.
Then, around 10,000 years ago, humans started farming. And skeletons from agricultural populations show something disturbing. Heights dropped, bone quality dropped, evidence of nutritional deficiency appeared in populations that had not shown it before. A large-scale analysis of skeletal remains published by researchers at Emory University found that the switch from hunting and gathering to farming was associated with significant decreases in average height across multiple populations around the world. Not because farming was bad in every way, but because early farming created dependence on a narrow range of crops. If the wheat grew, you ate. If it failed, you starved. And even when it grew, you were eating less variety than your ancestors had eaten for hundreds of thousands of years. The freedom of the ancient body, shaped by climate, terrain, and heat, ran into a new kind of pressure: monoculture, dependence, settlement. And the body paid for it.
So what does all of this mean? It means your height is not random. It is a message, a record of where your ancestors lived, what climate shaped them, what food was available, what predators hunted them, what terrain they moved through. The tall person and the short person are not opposites. They are different answers to different questions, different solutions that evolution found for different versions of the same problem. How do you keep a human body alive in a specific place on Earth? Carl Bergmann figured out the temperature rule in 1847. Researchers in Congo figured out the forest rule in 2012. The Flores cave answered questions we did not even know we had. And every answer points to the same uncomfortable truth. You did not choose your body. Your body was chosen for you, slowly, over thousands of generations, by forces that did not care what you looked like, only whether you survived long enough to pass it on. The ancient humans with different heights were not different kinds of people. They were the same species, writing different survival stories in the shape of their bones. And you are the latest chapter.